Uh, Hi guys. I'd like to apologize for quite possibly the ugliest looking presentation you're going to be seeing today. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this, so yeah. So just to get started, my name is Shaheryar Popalzai. I'm an ISOJ Knight Fellow and not promoting the Unicorn Frappuccino. Uh, like Athar mentioned earlier. So what I do is I work with multiple newsrooms in Pakistan, and up to 3 years back, we'd be looking at newsrooms in Europe and the US as benchmarks. But unfortunately, like most people here, we don't have the luxury of having a lot of funds, or our managements didn't allow us to do too much. So so when I got on the fellowship, what I did was I went back into the newsrooms and had them uh, look at how we can turn around interactive projects and innovative projects in shorter times and with little to no cost. So I worked with three media partners there. Two of them are newspapers, and one of them is the biggest news channel in Pakistan. And I'll be talking about the Tribune and Geo today. Facebook Live first. We started working on Facebook Live last year, roughly around April. Our initial approach was, like pretty much everybody else, sending a reporter out into the field and just reporting on what's there and on the ground. But then what we did was we decided to give the viewers at Geo News a behind-the-scenes look at what happens in the studio. And we put a smartphone inside the studio and had the newscasters read the headlines at roughly 6 p.m., which is a good time. And weirdly enough, that is the video that had worked out really well for them, and it crossed a million mark, and we still don't know why. Then just to expand on that, and once the management at Geo News was sold, like I mentioned, we got reporters to go out into the field. And since Geo News was a TV channel, and much like my colleague at the Post said, it's not broadcast, but since this was a TV channel, it is broadcast for them. And what they started doing was they started porting the exact same TV feed from television to Facebook Live in breaking news situations. And initially, what we were doing was we were pushing out maybe one Facebook video every 2 days. And when our frequency increased to 5 to 6 a day, the viewership went up insanely. And so we decided to expand on the breaking news situation with the porting to Facebook Live. And what we did was we got the clean feeds from the DSNG or satellite vans in the field and started porting those to Facebook Live. And once again, that started doing pretty well for them. So what we did was we made Facebook Live a part of their daily workflow. So the digital team, every time they come in to work and they see a breaking news situation happening, they have to port it to Facebook and embed it on their website. So what that helps them do is it gives the readers who are sitting on the website a much clearer picture of what's happening on the scene. And moving on from beyond that, what they started doing was they started creating shows just for Facebook Live. And what that helped them do is content that wasn't doing pretty good for them or wasn't doing well enough for them started doing well. For example, health does fairly well, but since they started doing shows designed just for Facebook Live on health, it's done insanely well for them. And the best part about this was they didn't spend any money to buy equipment. They had already started giving out mobile kits to the reporters, so we had that. But what we did was we made the most of their in-house studio and all the cameras and equipment they had inside. So like I mentioned, little to no cost. So Geo did not have to spend any money, and management was sold on this. That's why it was easy for them to go big. So out of the top 50 videos between April last year and April this year, 21 of them were Facebook Live videos for all of the content that they've done. And like I mentioned, the US has been a benchmark for us as well, and like AJ Plus was one of them. So they kind of started to replicate the shorter video with the text placed over it, and those videos were doing pretty well till they started doing Facebook Live. And like I mentioned, 21 out of 50 was a pretty big number for us. And they managed to cross the million mark twice. One, like I mentioned, was the live video of the anchors, which is the picture right here. I'm not going to play it because it's pretty boring. The content, by the way, was nothing. It was just a 6 p.m. headline that they were reading. Nothing important had happened that day. There was no breaking news. It wasn't a big news day either. So it just went big. We're guessing it was the first time that Geo had done a Facebook Live video. The second video that crossed a million mark, I mean, I don't know the numbers in the US, but these were pretty big numbers for us back home. The second was broadcast straight from television, like I mentioned. Pretty much like this, where the tickers were on top, so they didn't even get a clean feed in just to make the most of the time available to them. What has worked really well for us in Pakistan on Facebook Live is the breaking news, like I mentioned, just porting straight from television, not even having a reporter in the field. People tend to watch those videos a lot less than they do with like the TV feed. Headlines do really well. So what they started doing was initially we'd go with the 9 p.m. in the morning, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. At night again. Like we just run 5 to 8 minutes of the headlines, and that started doing pretty well. Sports does amazingly well. We don't have fancy sets available to us, so what we normally do is, cricket is big in Pakistan. We started out by, so every time the TV channel would get done with an analysis show, we'd pull the anchor and the analyst into a board meeting room with a really dirty wall at the back, but that did not make any difference. People interacted a lot, the comments would come in, the numbers went up. So again, we didn't have any fancy setup, but it did fairly well. Food and health do really well. Food is a great topic in Pakistan. We have some of the most amazing food in the world. So it does pretty well. So like I mentioned, we work in an environment that doesn't allow the luxury to experiment with things. So when we do pick up a technology, we have to make it work no matter what. 360 is one of those cases for us. When we started out, we had, can we load up the videos, please? When we started out, we went with a video roughly 3 minutes long with the reporter talking. It's the second link, not the first link. Yeah, I sent you 4 links, right? Yeah, so just, yeah, okay. Just load up the second link. So we sent, I went out with the reporter. We shot a video at a shrine. It's a fun video I like to show people. But this didn't work out for us much like it does in the US. Like most news organizations are doing 360 video, but that doesn't work for us as well as it does over here. And I'm going to show you what works for us right after this video. Yeah. It's not working? Oh, it's probably because the HTTPS. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it should work. No, you'll have to copy the link again. Yeah, no worries. Oh, I have 2-factor authentication, so it won't. So now we can do this. But that's also Facebook, so it won't. You can just load up the other two then. So, well, it's on Facebook, and there's no way we can work it because I have 2-factor authentication on. But either that, the other one isn't loading up? The other one isn't. Can you just try again? Yeah, let's try it again real quick. Well, anyway, I'll just talk about what worked out for us. So what we decided to do was we decided to build in-depth projects around 360 images and videos. We'd go in, we'd pick a story, and we'd shoot multiple scenes, and we'd put those up in a nicely laid out package. And those do a lot better than videos for us. And we designed it in a way where we'd have video on the, okay, sorry, we go. So this was a shrine that has 100 crocodiles, and people believe they have holy powers. So they visit them every Thursday. Can you move towards the crocodile? So this should be okay. Yeah, that's fine. So this didn't work well for us. The content was great, but the format wasn't for us. So we decided to drop shorter videos and work on in-depth packages. Can you load up the second one? The third one. No, the third video. Sorry, the third link. Okay. Yeah. There we go. So this is a format that does really well for us, and pretty much all media houses in Pakistan, or the 3 top ones, have adopted this. Can you hit begin? Click on begin. Yeah. So what we do is we have some text, and then we have multiple scenes from a side. This is Karachi's biggest slum, And we decided to go in and cover it because it's on the way to private beaches in Karachi, and the elite pass by this area every Sunday, but they don't know what goes on inside. So we felt this was an important story to tell. And can you click on the second one, the marketplace? Yeah. So we shot video, and so the best part about doing 360 in Pakistan is the quality of the video doesn't matter. This was shot with a theta, and the quality is really muddy, but that doesn't make a difference. It's the content that mattered for us at the end of the day. And what we did was we didn't place any text over this or make the text prominent in the package of the story, because we felt the visuals should be telling the story and not, we shouldn't be force feeding the story to the readers. Can you hit read about this location? Yeah. So we put some text and some images to give people a much clearer picture of what is going on in there, instead of dumping text on there or having voiceovers or just, overloading them with more information. Can you go back to the presentation? So yeah, that worked out for us fairly well. And once we started doing more of these bigger projects, we managed to get our hands on more cameras and started experimenting, got more cameras. But again, the numbers kept pretty much the same, decently high. So like I mentioned, it wasn't the quality of the video that mattered, it was the content at the end of the day. And again, in a market like Pakistan's, that does really well for us. So yeah, like I mentioned, and like pretty much everybody else mentioned today, it's the content and not your platform or the format of your what you're doing it in. In-depth stories have worked out really well for us, like I mentioned. And again, keeping visual and text separate inside pretty much everything we do. The plugins for putting text on 360 video, again, are expensive, so we can't convince the management to buy them. We tried to go the easy route by placing it in the center, so that didn't work out, so we went with keeping text separate and letting the visual tell the story instead. What has worked for us is virtual tours, specifically of historical places. Those do really well because you're placing people in a place where they can't be or they're not visiting enough. Food, like I mentioned again, does really well. We shot an in-depth package on a food street in Karachi. And we put shorter clips on Facebook just to lead people to that main project, and those did really well for us. And people love watching food being cooked. And if it's street food, that does really well. And shorter videos, and by shorter videos, I mean not like the one that I showed you, but much, much shorter. So I was with the reporters in the field, and there was a bus accident. And we put a camera in front of the bus with people standing there. This is roughly a 30 to 40 second clip. And it got 75,000 views in 5 minutes. And we had no text, no voiceovers, and a simple caption that said bus accident in Karachi, and that's it. So the visual told the story and not the text in itself. And that's about it from my end.